But now that we have our roof tiles textured out here, we've got the inside done as well, and we might need to make a filler for this. I'll come back on that and do all those windows together, I think. Noticing this as well, this is only, as far as I'm aware, this is only single-sided polygons. Or is there a mirror on this? I'm just kind of thinking in my head though, if I was to bring this into a game engine, chances are from the bottom that wouldn't show through. So I might need to set up a double-sided face for this so that it'll show from through this window here, say, and also from the bottom. It seems to be okay in Blender, but I think in Unity that might be a problem. So just something to keep in mind. I think down the line I'll need to take all of these interior roof or floor parts, whichever you want to consider it, and I'll need to add a shell onto this, so give it a bit of thickness. So for the most part though, I think this is kind of done. I might come back at a later video as well, and I'm going to kind of cover up these front sections here. I'm not too big on how they look at the moment. I do like the sides though. I think the wood overall is pretty nice on it, but just I need to cover up the bits that aren't as appealing to me, so I'll come back and do that all in a later video. But for now, I'm going to take some of the parts of this. If I go back to, I'm going to press the / and come back and see everything here. If I look at this, I've got one part textured out of all these parts that are very similar. They're actually very, very similar. So I'm thinking, instead of having to do all this from scratch on each one, I'm going to take the parts that I could clone to this, for example, and it'll just kind of make the process a little easier. And then for these more advanced pieces, like you got this cross section here, or you've got this corner segment, I'm going to set up a cutting field basically. It's, imagine if you're looking down on this object here, there's going to be an element of wires and edges basically set up to give us this cut effect. And all that we need to do for all of these more complicated parts of roof and all is just drag them into this cutter object and then cut them. Basically, I'll use knife project and cut them, and we won't have to go lining anything up. So what might look at this point like a very intimidating, laborious, kind of crappy part of the design, it's actually not that bad. I'm going to start first and foremost though by copying the parts of this object that I'm able to use on these other pieces. Parts being maybe this interior floor piece, because it's going to be the same on both of these. Also, these edges here, they're identical to these ones, and these are already UV unwrapped. So I'm just going to copy them over first, and then I will I'll set up my knife on this, and I'll cut out the squares and segments, and then we'll get them unwrapped as well. First of all though, I want to remove what I'm not using on these. So I'm gonna go select these polygons that I'm not using. Okay, don't need them, so I'll press X and remove faces. And I'll actually just get rid of this inside as well. And then I'll do the same on this. I'm actually going to isolate this. Make it a little easier on myself to see. So select that, the two inside, and these guys. Now I'll press X and remove faces. And while I'm at that, actually, I'm going to optimize this in a way. I know I'm going to want these outside faces and the inside here. Now, is that everything? Yes. Okay, so we got some weird join going on there. That doesn't really matter though, because if I press Control I and just remove these outright, we're only left then with faces that are essential to us. I'll do the same on this guy. I'm going to select these outside. inside. Again, like, we didn't optimize this topology, so it's still kind of a mess here. I'll press Control I and invert that, X and remove faces. Alright. Okay, the parts I can copy from here are these UV'd wooden pieces, so I'll just select these, and the roof part is separate. Come back to that. Okay. Now with that, I'm going to turn my snap on, my increment snap here, and I'll press Shift D, and I'm just going to duplicate them over twice. So that saves us having to come back in and then manually do that all over again. Right, so one thing that I didn't actually consider was this inside face doesn't come all the way down to meet that. It's not really a problem though. I could probably just, if I turn on my vertex snap here, I'll select this object first, then the other one, and I'm going to go into edit mode. It's one to go to verts, and I'm just going to select one vert, and I'll press G and I'll snap it down to its opposite. Okay, so we have a vertice in the middle there. I don't think that's a problem though. Not in that case. I'll just do the same on this side. Alright, and now we got to do the same here. Right, so that's us up there. So what else do we need to do? Okay, so these objects are still technically part of this one. So I'm going to separate them out. I'll press L while hovering over each piece, and V, and separate the selection. Right, let me just quickly double check to make sure there's no stretching happening here. UV stretching, I mean. It actually looks fine. There's a crease running along there. No problem though. It's not worth crying about, I don't think. Okay, so we just need to look at these pieces. Okay, so I think I might have already done this section off camera. Just isolate and have a look. Yeah, okay, so you can see the inside of this has all been cleaned out. We got rid of all the geometry that isn't needed, that isn't seen by anything. We've turned everything into quads. So that's pretty much ready to go. Okay, if I am correct though, this other guy here should be absolutely identical. He is, yeah. Okay, so I can just, I'll clean this fella up here. And because they're identical, anyone who hasn't got this piece done, just copy the exact same technique to clean this as the bigger fella here. So just to get in and kind of see what needs to be done here, I want to just grab these pieces, the window itself here, and I'll take the frame, and I'm going to forward slash, and I'm going to go into isolation here. And now you can see with all this kind of noise that's happening, that's kind of showing you the areas that we need to fix up. So I'll start chopping away at this. I'm going to grab my polygon tool here, and I know I don't need those faces because they're covered completely by the roof. So I'll press X and delete faces. Now we're left here with the inside. That we do need, As you can see, it's visible to the outside. It looks like this bit here though, we don't. That's what's giving us this kind of noise that's going on here. So I'm going to select those outside faces like this, and you're probably thinking, well, it's clearly visible from the outside, so why would you delete that? And the only reason I'm deleting this is to make it a bit easier to select now the inside here that we don't need. And once that's gone, I'll press X and remove those faces. It's easy now. I can just go into edge mode and I can bridge these edges back. I don't need that edge, that kind of just terminates itself there. I'll press X and remove or dissolve edges. Okay, I can see here it's caused an issue because again there's a bit of noise happening here, if you can see it. So that means that there's vertice overlapping somewhere. So I'll try the back, which is usually a problem area. Yeah, so there we go. I just need to just remove this. So with that selected, I'll press X and dissolve vertice. No, it won't let me do that. Okay, hang on. I'll try. Can I just grab the face actually? That's a whole face running the length. I'll try that. I'll just press X and delete the face. Okay, that works, but I still have the duplicated vertex here, so I'll try remove that now. X and dissolve vertex. Here we go. Okay. So chances are, if that was a problem on this side, it's probably mirrored because we did use a mirror modifier on this. And I can see here that we did. So I will, again, select that face, press X, delete that face. So I'm left with just one, but I probably have an overlapping vertex here. Yep. So I'll press X and dissolve vertex. Is this other one duplicated? No, that's alright. Okay. So that's pretty much cleaned that up. I just need to now bridge these edges. So I'll select him and the opposite and press F to draw a face between. And I'll just go around the outside here, cutting this geometry in. Okay. So that's the interior of this piece done. Let's have a look at the frame itself here. So I'll isolate this. So now we can see here we have the back face we don't need because we'll never see it. So I'll just go around and remove this. And that will actually make it easier then to unwrap it too. Quite a bit going on here as well. I might just double check to make sure it's welded here. So let me just grab the vertice and move. Yeah, it's okay, that's welded. I can't remove that edge because I want to keep that pointed silhouette there. I don't need this edge here in the bottom, so I can press Alt and click X and dissolve. So that's all one piece there now. The rest is fine. I'm not going to worry about that. That'll be in the window itself. You won't see it. I'll leave it as an open face though, because it will make unwrapping a little handier. Alright, okay, so let's just check the wall here. Okay, everything there is fine. We need all that. I think I'll add a small bevel here. It's along that outside. So Control B, and I'll give it a small value. Okay. So with that done, we're pretty much ready to start UVing this out now. So I'll quickly just separate the window pane here. Press P, selection, and I might as well do the same here if it's not already done. P, selection, and now I'll grab these two pieces. I'll remove the material attached, and I will give it the glass material on both. Alright, so now we're ready to cut this piece up, and then we'll have our 3 window roof segments pretty much ready to go. So again, before I cut this, I want to have a look at this gap. I think in my head I decided I'm not going to fix that because I want to kind of cover that. But like another piece of geometry hanging over it, so it's like if you can imagine like a felt strip that you'd normally see around these kind of windows. And the inside definitely needs to be fixed because we have an N-gon here. A big old ugly, so I'll grab vertice here and I'm just going to select the outside. Here I'll press J to join them. And actually I'll press K for knife and I'm just going to zigzag in and out of these and turn them into triangles for now. And I need to give an edge here. Down to the bottom. Okay, so now we should have tidied this up with quad, quad, triangle, 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 and quad. And it should be the same on the outside. Yep, okay, we're good. Now, because this is kind of hidden, it wouldn't be a bad idea actually just to grab this, isolate it, and make sure that there's only one vertex here, because sometimes they can double up on you. That's okay there, yeah, that's fine. Check the inside. Alright, that's fine. Not that it's a problem. Like an extra vertex there will actually turn this top piece here into a quad, which isn't a problem, but you can get some artifacts, especially when it comes to UV mapping this then. So that's that. I will check the topology of this piece. So this needs the same kind of treatment here on the inside. K to go to knife, and I'm just going to cut dries on the top. There's a vertex here we don't need. I'll press X and dissolve. K to go back to knife, and I'm just going to finish cutting quads into this. Now I'll just quickly check everything. Okay, that looks alright. And there's nothing on the back, that's just one gigantic quad. Okay, so to cut this, I'm going to kind of take a bit of an easier approach on it. I showed you last time when I was cutting this how I'd kind of go into orthographic and I'd line up with the grade and get the cuts that I wanted. And that's kind of important for the first piece because we need to know where those edges are in regards to like your location on the z-axis here. So if I go to tool, no item, we need that information because we're going to manually adjust everything from these rules now so that they all kind of line up there. So setting this up manually is always kind of important on the first one, which is kind of why it took so long. But there's an approach we can use that'll greatly speed this up, so we don't have to kind of take the pain in the ass way to do it every time. And to do that, it's simple enough. Okay, so if you think about when we were cutting out these windows, especially with these like the box select here, you know, I showed how you could extract edges from this and then you can use that as a knife. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on a small scale here. I'm going to take those edges and I'm going to use them as a knife and I'm going to cut them into this geometry. And then on the next video, I'm going to show you how we can make like the same kind of cutter on steroids that's going to basically snap to these and it's going to slice them up into pieces without having to kind of reassign everything. So everything from this point on here, thankfully, is kind of, it's going to start snowballing now. It's going to get a lot faster and it's going to get a lot more fun. So once you get to this point here, I'd say you're over the hard part. So we can look forward to the next couple of videos where we're just kind of having a bit of fun with this. And then we can go into like doing some like nice details, which is kind of everybody's favorite bit, just making it pop a little better. So in order to do this properly, what I'm going to do is I want to set my pivot point back to the center here, the world center. These things keep on hiding themselves on me. I have no idea why that happens. I just want to remove all them from sight. I just kind of turn the folder off so that they're not bugging me anymore. So now with the 3D cursor here, I'm going to use the cursor to spawn an object, right? So I'm going to right click and snap, and I will select cursor to world edge. So now when I press Shift A, I can make a mesh, make a plane, and it'll make it at that world edge. And for the sake of size, I think I might go with a size of, let's just go with 10. 10 meters for this. So it'll make a pretty big square. And I just need to make sure that that completely covers these two pieces of roof that we want to fix up. So I want to go into top down here, and I'm going to move it into place. Okay, so I'm a bit small on it. That doesn't really matter. I want to select everything anyway. Just take all that, and I'm going to isolate this. Now I'll go back into top down. And I'm just going to scale this up manually so that it covers both. Now this is only a makeshift one we're doing. I'm going to make a larger one that's much more specific that we're going to use to cut everything from now on. So this is just to show you roughly what we're going to be doing and how this works. So with that, I'll come out of isolation. And one thing that I forgot to do was actually copy this roof piece over to these new objects. So I'll do that quickly now. I'll turn my snap on with increment snap, and I'll press Shift D, make sure the snap is turned on, and it's going to move this over, and copy again and move it over again. So this is already pre-cut. We don't need to cut this, so I'm just going to exclude this piece here from the selection. So again, I want to just select my plane, and I'll select the large roof and then the smaller roof piece on both. I'll keep the walls and the window out of it for the moment, just to avoid confusion on this. Okay, and actually it couldn't hurt to bring this guy in because he has the cuts on it. Okay, so what are we going to do here? We're going to take this, and now I know that there's a cut, and then the next cut we need to worry about is here, and we don't have to worry about the top because that is not going to be cut. So we just need those 3 levels. Okay, so I'm going to grab this object here. I know that its pivot point is set on the floor, so that should be 4 meters high up. 4.1. Okay, it's not too bad. It's not too far off at all. That's probably to allow for this lip that's happening here. So I'll just take that. I want to copy its value. Control C. And now I will take the plane here, and I'm going to move that up to that value. Control V there and paste it. Okay, so that's our first cutter. And now I'll get the second cut here, which is 5.4. So I'll Control C that. Now I want to duplicate this object, and I'll set that value. So that's our second cut. And now we've one more to do here. Copy that Z value, Control C, and I'll duplicate. Control V. So that's our 3 pieces. I'm just going to copy one more. Control D, and this time I want to get the front projection. So for that, what I'm going to do is go into front view here by clicking the X. And it looks like our other guys disappeared there. They didn't. It's just because they're such a flat plane, they're not actually visible here. With this, all I want to do is make sure that if you see here, that's our midpoint, because I'm looking at the grid in the background there. I need to make sure that this is snapping to that point there. So I'm going to rotate this. Hold Control, and I'll rotate it exactly 90 degrees. And now I'm just going to move this until it snaps to that grid point. It's kind of not really working there at the moment. So I will come out of snap here, and I'm going to manually just kind of move this back to the point where it kind of looks like it's over it. And I can see then the value here, 4.8. If I change that, let's say to 5, that's on Z though, that's not really what I'm looking for. Oh, okay, problem, yeah. Because I changed the orientation of this, I rotate it. So what I can do is actually, I'll press Q, and I'm going to set all transforms. And now I'll right click and snap. No, I'll set origin back to the geometry. So now I'm looking for the y-axis, which is the green arrow, and my y-axis tells me this is minus 92. So let's just try minus 90. Okay, so that snaps me to that piece. So I'll turn snap back on, and now it should snap at increments until I meet up on the center there, which is perfect. And I'm going to duplicate that again. This time I'll snap it to this center. And then when I kind of rotate this, we see all our colors are there in order. I want to, with that selected, I'm going to hold shift and I want to just grab each of the other ones. And I'll join this all as one object. We'll press Ctrl J. And we don't really need the face there, so we'll go into edit mode, press tab. With everything selected, I want to press X, and where it says delete, I want to delete only faces. So now that kind of keeps me with the wires then. So now what I can do is select the object I want to cut, which we know all this now. It's the two main roof parts. And now I will press tab, go into edit mode, and with control pressed, I'll click the cutter. Then I'll go into, let's try front orthographic, go to mesh, and I will knife project. And make sure cut through is turned on. And that should cut us up nicely. Okay, there's a little artifact happening here on the bottom, but that's okay, I can fix it up later. For the most part, that looks like it's done the trick. Okay, so what's happening with this geometry? We'll have a quick look at this. Okay. Yeah, so basically then what happened was, because that was the first level of the first cutter, it cut through the mesh, and because we brought this down to meet, if you remember, this lip piece of this object, it seems to be kind of overlapping. There's a vertex in there somewhere that's overlapping. So what I'll do is, there's our problem. I'm just going to grab him, Q, and move that to last. With this one, maybe I'll do the same here. Okay, that didn't really fix anything. Yeah, oh, it's a holy mess there, right? I'm just going to remove this. With that selected, I'll press X, remove the face, and now I'll try re-bridging. Alright, that worked there, but this one here is a little more complicated. So what I'll do is I'll press E and extrude out, and now I'm going to turn my snap setting to vertex. Press 1 to go into vertex select, and I want to make sure that white vertex, that's the last one I selected. With that active, I'll press Q, and I'll just move it out and make sure it snaps to this piece. Now I just need to press A and right click and merge verts by distance. So that will remove any verts that are kind of hanging around. Okay. So I just noticed it removed 9 verts. So I guess that probably means up here had to be welded as well. Here's what I was talking about actually a while back. The way sometimes it's hard to make sure that you have everything. This isn't really a problem, but it could cause issues when it comes to UVing, so I want to make sure that these are all welded to this point here. So I'll grab him first, hold shift, grab the middle, and then the outside, and the last one I select should be the one I want to weld to, so I'll hold shift, pick the last one, and then press Q, and weld at last. If people lost me there, what I've done basically was add it to my quick favorites, right click, come down to merge, and then at last here. You could just right click that and add it to your quick favorites. And here on the front as well has the same issue. So I'm going to solo into this and right click, merge at last. Alright. That seems to be fine. Now I can actually clean this up a little bit better as well. I can keep this as a full quad here, now that we fixed this issue. I'm just going to merge them and this guy. And now if I can maybe get rid of this, press X, dissolve edge. That should make our life a little easier there as well. I'll do the same on the inside. Okay, so as far as our UVs go, we have some pretty nice squared objects there that we can easily project onto that. I'll just do the same quickly with this guy. Now, because our window's much larger, we're stuck here. We can't just combine these. So we need to consider how we can probably weld this here. I'll pull this guy out to the edge. We're going to be, no matter what way we kind of fight with that, we're going to be stuck with triangles there and on top, I think. Yeah, so we're kind of limited here. But again, it's not a problem. This will still unwrap fine. Okay, so everything else there is good to go. I'm just going to do this piece. Okay, in my head I'm thinking, could I weld this down? If you understand what I mean, if I could weld that down and just kind of keep that as one piece, but it won't work because it breaks up our square size then. We need our squares to be the same size front and back to avoid stretching on the UV itself.